With the return of Angron, Fulgrim, Mortarion and Magnus in recent 40k lore, it seems like every single traitor Primarch is returning to the 42nd Millennium. But it raises the question, where are all the other traitor Primarchs? We know that Horus, Conrad Curse and possibly one of the Alpha Legion twins is dead. We know that Lorgar is stuck in the warp, constantly being haunted by Corvus Corax, but we are missing someone. Where's Perturabo? Where has the Lord of Iron been for the last 10,000 years? Well, like most people, I thought GW just put him in the background and completely forgot about him. Until very recently, when I was reading the 8th edition Death Guard Codex, where to my surprise, I read about thousands of Iron Warriors battling the Plague Marines. The War of Rust and Ruin. And behold, Perturabo is back in the Materium. And he is not just fighting chaos, he is back at besieging the Imperium. What if I told you, Perturabo is fully back in the lore? Not just one quick source mentioning him, no, multiple novels, short stories and codexes are all talking about his return. Perturabo is not just back, he has been busy. From obliterating fellow Chaos forces to announce his return, laying siege to an entire segmentum of the Imperium, all the way to his apparent dabblings with Chaos that somehow have made him able to cast magic and create tech viruses. Perturabo has become an absolute menace. By the end of today's video, you will know every excerpt and source for the return of Perturabo, what he has been up to, how his power has exponentially grown throughout the millennia, and now that he is back, sieging everything he sees, what is his current plan? Why has he returned all of a sudden? And why is he attacking everyone? I will put the sources of each segment in the bottom left hand corner throughout the video, just in case you want to check and read these awesome lore tidbits yourself. All that and a whole lot more in today's video. Alright, let's get into the lore. Before we go over all of the new lore surrounding the return of Perturabo, we first need to take a look at how Perturabo even ended up here. Don't worry, I'll keep this quick, because I imagine a lot of people watching this video already are massive Iron Warrior fans and already know most of this, so see it as a quick lore refresher. Perturabo, Primarch of the Iron Warriors, was counted among the most dedicated sons of the Emperor during the Great Crusade, a warrior and general who not only shared the Emperor's vision, but like Horus, truly believed in it. Yet Perturabo was so eager to prove his worthiness and dedication to the crusade that it led to him breaking not only his own legion, his mantle, and the trust of the people of Olympia, but also spawned some of the most brutal war zones the fledgling Imperium had ever seen. For the Iron Warriors, the Great Crusade was an endless series of sieges, a constant barrage of artillery fire, and casualty raids that made even the World Eaters take a pause. To make matters worse, Perturabo was an utterly brutal commander. His mastery of siege warfare was methodical and practical, but his sons were turned into little more than butcher crews and tools of war. Siege warfare is something so nightmarish in 40k that not even the greatest amongst the Legiones Astartes could dedicate their lives to it without it slowly breaking them down. So when other Primarchs showered themselves in the glory of easier campaigns, Perturabo grew bitter. The soul and the hope of the 4th Legion would die countless times throughout the Great Crusade. But as the Legion bombed its own homeworld of Olympia, Perturabo had sealed his fate. He had gone too far and joined Warmaster Horus in his rebellion against the Emperor of Mankind. For Perturabo, the Horus heresy was a cruel affair. His sons were the very tip of the spear across countless war zones, destroying the greatest bastions built by his brothers, or sometimes even the ones Perturabo built himself during the Crusade. The Lord of Iron became isolated from his brothers, who slowly descended into the madness of chaos. Fulgrim had attempted to kill him to gain more power. Angron was a beast who needed to be put in a cage, and Mortarion was as repulsive as ever. But while the breaking point for the Iron Warrior Legion was Olympia, for Perturabo himself, it was the Siege of Terra. Here on humanity's cradle, the Lord of Iron would finally be given his recognition by Horus. Here, Perturabo began tearing apart the Imperial Palace, for which Dorn was given endless praise. Unfortunately, however, a couple months later, Horus, either in his infinite madness or finite wisdom, would relieve Perturabo of commanding the siege, and instead gave it over to Mortarion to finish the job. Perturabo didn't lash out with anger as he used to. Instead, he looked at the beasts and demons and decided to no longer be a part of this insanity. The Iron Warriors left the siege. Perturabo vowed that both Rogaldorn and Mortarion would taste his bloody vengeance. They had ruined his triumph as the true master of siege warfare, and they would bloody well know it. His first target, Rogaldorn, would be broken on Sebastus IV during the Scouring, a battle that lasted for over a month and saw the Imperial Fist Legion broken in the infamous Iron Cage War. The Eternal Fortress, which was not actually a fortress at all, was essentially a kill zone consisting of kilometers of raw killing ground, traps, and endless bunkers designed to obliterate invading forces. Perturabo made Dorn pay. He didn't want to kill him, he wanted to defeat him and watch him suffer. And by the gods, did he make Dorn suffer. Horus was already dead at this point, so now that only left the Emperor and Mortarion to face the Lord of Iron's endless wrath. It has been 10,000 years since these apocalyptic days. Perturabo has become a true veteran of the Long War. But when Cadia broke, not only would Mortarion face Perturabo, the master of the Iron Warriors laid siege to an entire segmentum of the Imperium. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's take a look at the War of Rust and Ruin, the first point in recent lore where we see the true and official return of Perturabo. When Cadia was finally broken by the 13th Black Crusade, the Imperium would face a reckoning unlike any seen before. The traitor Primarchs themselves would lead their Astarte sons in destroying what was rebuilt in the last 10,000 years. Mortarion started a great war with his brother Rabute Guilliman. The two would face each other in Ultramar during these so-called Plague Wars. Yet even when Guilliman was killed by the Godblight, a disease designed by Nurgle and Kugat to specifically kill a Primarch, the Emperor refused to let his son die and revived him on the spot, burning Nurgle's garden in the process. What should have been a decisive victory was turned into Mortarion's most shameful defeat. Yet a Primarch is not a weapon to be discarded, even by the Chaos Gods, and soon Mortarion was needed once again. On the world of Dissectus, a vast Death Guard force advanced through pyroclastic storms in search of the Temple of Ascension. Yet before Mortarion could claim his prize, Perturabo appeared before his force. The Iron Warriors were supported by the Titans of Legio Abhorax, and before anything was said, they opened fire. For hours, the continent-shattering battle raged. This battle is what became known as the War of Rust and Ruin. Hordes of demons were summoned, countless millions of munitions were spent, all the while Mortarion and Perturabo dueled for over 7 hours. The devastation, the casualties lost, and raw power unleashed by both sides were something reminiscent of the Horus Heresy. Yet the longer the fighting raged on, the more and more contagions and metalliphage boxes of the Death Guard spread through the Iron Warrior ranks. The ancient heretics sickened and collapsed on the spot, their bodies giving out to the demonic viruses. Malevolent war engines seized with rust and sparked to a halt as their imprisoned spirits shrieked with agony. Even normal machine spirits went mad with revulsion and pain, and as the power of entropy and decay ran rampant, the battle slowly started to swing in Mortarion's favor. With his forces in tatters and many of his precious war engines crippled beyond repair, even the bitter and vengeful Perturabo finally conceded defeat. Falling back to pre-prepared defense lines, he detonated a series of explosive trenches amidst the raging storms and disengaged in the ensuing mayhem. Badly mauled but triumphant, Mortarion and his Death Guard finally laid claim to the Heathen Temple they fought so hard for, and uncovered the ancient relics that lay at its heart. So that's Perturabo's return arc. He fights Mortarion, loses, nukes the place and leaves. Alright, a bit disappointing, not gonna lie. But he is active and about again. Luckily, this is not the only source of his return. Let's take a look at every mention of what he and the Iron Warriors have been up to in recent lore. Although we sadly don't have the dates for all of the following battles, they showcase some of Perturabo's actions throughout the millennia, and what he has been building up to. Perturabo's Curse. As a demon Primarch, do not worry, we will cover this in more detail later, Perturabo twists the 8 rituals of possession to his own will. By invoking Nurgle, Perturabo imbues his curse with contagion. He releases it on the systems of Toil, a vassal fortworld which will be destroyed by chaos. After 8 days, giant cables burst from the earth, demonic engines hunt the living, and many-legged cathedrals of industry prowl the waste. The planet is scoured of all native flesh. A rebellion crushed. On the hive-world of Cornucopian, the Iron Warriors exact a heavy toll in tides of materials to be paid, allowing the Iron Warriors to keep fighting their endless wars. When the capital hive of Steelstone Keep rises in rebellion after being ordered to double their tides, Perturabo hears through the warp the oath of vengeance declared by a cult leader as he was killed with smith hammers. Perturabo orders Steelstone Keep to be made into an example. The Iron Warriors attacked with train-shaped demon engines, burrowing through the world's crust and spewing forth lava and Iron Warriors into the hive. Iron Warrior kill teams fought room to room, intending to gut the entire hive city. The only evidence of the rebellion that now remains is a metallic mountain filled with molten rock. The 10th Black Crusade. During Abaddon's 10th Black Crusade, the Warmaster of Chaos and the Lord of Iron formed a dark alliance between the Black Legion and the Iron Warriors. During this Black Crusade, Perturabo promised to help Abaddon if he, in return, settled an old debt of vengeance against the Iron Hands. Perturabo opened an ancient warp route out of the Eye of Terror for Abaddon's fleet, allowing him to completely bypass the Cadian Gate. This allowed Abaddon to cause havoc within the Imperium and further his own dark goals. Later, when Abaddon began his 13th Black Crusade, Perturabo would arm him with powerful demonic engines, and the Iron Warriors themselves finally joined the Black Crusade. But as you can imagine, Perturabo returning to 40k is gonna shake up a lot of things. Let's take a look at what his own sons think of his return, which is where we also get the real answer as to why Perturabo has returned in the first place. Among the Iron Warriors, internal strife and conflicts happen rather often, but they still resemble a legion of sorts, a rarity amongst the Chaos Space Marine legions. While they do honor the Chaos Gods as a pantheon, they are not truly devout, and their true loyalty is only to Perturabo, who they believe saved them from the false Emperor. Many warsmiths still act in the best interest of Perturabo. Some simply seek to obliterate everything he hated about the Imperium, and nothing more. Perhaps few Iron Warriors are as good an example as Master Shangrel. Let's take a look at an excerpt from the Master's Bidding, where he talks about his Genefather and how his response to things affects the entire Legion at all times. By the day of my ascension to my own command, when I watched a cohort of Iron Warriors raise their fists above their heads and shout their loyalty to me, I knew my first endeavor would be to once again see the sign of the fist and the sign of the Omega brought low together. Hegoru, this was the world I chose for my purpose. Slow boiling Hegoru with its shifting lands of slick grey rock and the rich red cauldrons of its oceans under silver skies. I had passed close by there in the Crusade, and you, any of you, did your fleets take you into the galactic southwest? No answer, no matter. At Hegoru, we heard, the Imperial Fist had celebrated the world's compliance with a ring of great works around the polar coast, so they said, giving it a regal coronet to celebrate its ascension to our human Imperium. We laughed to hear that, until we saw that Perturabo did not laugh, but looked at the pigs through hooded eyes, and then turned his back upon them. From then on, we only spoke of yellow-crowned Hegoru in soft and bitter tones. For some added context, Master Shangrel is a four-legged dreadnought who commands his very own warband of Iron Warriors. Shangrel was once a young legionary during the Great Crusade, with his legacy being forged during the Siege of Terra. Shangrel is a true veteran of the Long War, yet even now, as the ruler over his own fortress, he remains utterly loyal to Perturabo. If his Primarch called, his distant fortress would answer without hesitation. Even, as explained later in his speech, his attack on Hegoru was because of no other reason than to spite the Imperial Fist and Ultramarines in the name of Perturabo, simply to make his father smile. While Shangrel is an ancient veteran, the same cannot be said for Honshu. Honshu stands out amongst the warsmiths for being a half-breed. His gene seed is a fusion of Imperial Fist and Iron Warrior gene seed. Yeah, super heretical and one of the few examples of Chimera gene seed. While Honshu is a truly legendary figure worthy of a video of his own, for now what is important to know is that Honshu cares little for what anyone thinks. Honshu starts fights with just about anyone, from Cornate Emperor Sides to the entire Ultramarine chapter. Honshu has never really backed down from any fight. Even when he took part in the Skull Harvest, Huron Blackheart himself was forced to put him in his place and make him follow the actual rules. Yet Perturabo saw value in this insolent warsmith. Back during the Horus Heresy, Perturabo demoted one of his senior warsmiths for failing and randomly raised up a line legionary to replace him, named Kruger. Perturabo elevated Kruger because he needed fresh blood and new insights to help the Iron Warriors rise above their weaknesses. Yet for all of Honshu's belligerent nature, when the Lord of Iron called to meet him, Honshu came before his Primarch almost humbled. The two would play many games of strategy to test one another, yet Honshu never won until their last game. Honshu had a deep respect for Perturabo and was both fearful and awe-inspired by the lesson he was being taught. However, as Honshu is given his last chance to beat Perturabo, the Lord of Iron ends up rather pleased, as seen in Warbreed. Do you know why you keep losing? Because there's no way to win, snapped Honshu. You set me impossible challenges. You claim every advantage on the board, and you are Perturabo, the Lord of Iron. You are half right, but you are losing because you are fighting like every other warsmith I have in my armies. You are fighting in a way you think I want you to fight. But I want you to fight like you. Fight like Honshu, not like any other warsmith. Fight as though this is your only chance to humble every man who has ever doubted you. Every warrior who looked down on you. not a singular being, but all of them fight like you. I thought fighting like that was my weakness. When you didn't know that, it was knowing yourself as well as you know the enemy. Turn it into a strength. Now, fight again, and this will be your last attempt. Honshu was tested to his very limit, but finally, he destroyed the center of Perturabo's sector defenses. Perturabo smiled and toppled his commander's flag. Well done, the victory is yours. Honshu sat back, his face slick with sweat, his skull pounding from the stress of maintaining an unrelenting focus on his stratagems. Entire sectors had been set ablaze, the death toll likely in the realm of multiple billions. You see, it can be done. Honshu pointed to the linchpin world and said, "That was Cadia, wasn't it?" Perturabo nodded. "It was, an extreme version of it, but one we will soon face." Honshu looked up from the board and stared into the endless white of the sky. It remained unendingly sterile and bleached of all life, but streaks of blue-black fumes hazed the horizon in all directions. He moved to the outcropping, overlooking the desolate outlands of Madrengard, and saw a world on fire with industry. A global effort of industrial output. Vast foundries churned out legions of battle tanks, choking fumes spewed from chemical plants, producing weapons and ammunitions. His gaze traveled beyond the horizon to see every fiber of Madrengard's war machine brought to bear to produce an army of conquest. What is this? Exactly what you came here looking for. A war unlike any other. The despoiler has called, and this time I will answer him. But to win, we need to cast off the old ways of war. None of my other warsmiths can think like you. They are all too bound up in whether a fight can be won to understand that sometimes a fight needs to be fought. You have no code, no loyalty to any creed but your own. And the coming war will demand leaders who will fight even when their logical thing says they shouldn't. Warriors who confound our enemies at every turn. Honshu watched the vast army forming up beneath the black sun in the dead sky. That I can do. Honestly, and I'm just sharing my personal opinion and interpretations here, but Perturabo sounds a lot more mature than during the Horus Heresy and the Siege of Terra. Maybe it's just because he is playing his favorite Siege game, which he has played for over 10 millennia by the way, but he sounds a lot calmer and collected here than when he trained Kruger or any of his other earlier warsmiths. But here's the plot twist. This is not normal Perturabo. No, this is Demon Ascended Perturabo. He is a Demon Prince in this scene. He has been a Demon Prince for nearly 10,000 years. But we already established he doesn't serve chaos. How the hell did he become a Demon Prince? Let's take a look at Perturabo's ascension. First, let's take a look at why Perturabo became a Demon Primarch, which is sadly an entire build-up from the novels Angel Exterminatus, Slaves to Darkness, Mortis, and The End in the Death Volume 3. So I have to combine and shorten a lot of information here. Throughout all of these novels, do we learn that Perturabo has a distaste for the demonic, even though he claims to understand the warp better than most. In Mortis, it shows his brutally honest opinion of Horus Ascended, while being relieved from commanding the Siege of Terra definitely made Perturabo upset. The ceaseless bickering and insanity of the Demon Primarchs was a nice thing to be free from. Yet, with all of this said, Perturabo does not consider himself above the use of warp magic as a weapon. To draw a parallel with Lorgar for a moment, Lorgar is a man of fate, and through his belief in the Chaos Gods, does he study and understand the warp. Perturabo, on the other hand, is a man of science, and no matter how much Fabius Bile copes, the Chaos Gods are very real and very powerful. Yet, Perturabo, no matter what, refuses to let himself be a slave to the whims of the Dark Gods. But there is another issue, namely that when Fulgrim ascended, he nearly killed Perturabo by opening his soul with the Maw-Eater stone, and since then, he has slowly been dying. While this here is more interpretation than anything else, Perturabo has the following reasons to become a Demon Primarch. first and foremost, to actually save his life. The second is to become stronger and transform into the perfect weapon. And as we saw with Perturabo's curse earlier in this video, he has been very successful. But Dutch, I hear you ask, how did Perturabo become a demon Primarch? Well, I am glad you asked, friend. When Perturabo fought Rogel Dorn on Sebastus IV in a battle now known as the Iron Cage, the Lord of Iron utterly broke the Praetorian of Terra. The Iron Cage resulted in the Imperial Fist no longer being able to exist as a legion. Perturabo did not create a fortress to be besieged on Sebastus IV. He created a death trap, which Rogel Dorn walked right into. Dorn endlessly cried his challenges at Perturabo, which he promptly ignored. Only when Robute Guilliman arrived with the Ultramarines did Perturabo fall back. And as he did so, he sacrificed an incredible amount of Imperial Fist gene seed to the Dark Gods so he could ascend. And through this sacrifice did Perturabo become a demon Primarch. Although it is not outright stated which god he sacrificed to, or if he's even a full demon Primarch at all, he could just be empowered after all, kinda like Horus but way weaker. I personally believe he probably became a Chaos Undivided Demon Prince, kind of like Be'lakor, which conceivably gives him as much freedom as the Prince of Shadows has, or as much freedom as Lorgar has, if he were not being haunted by his Raven brother. For completionist's sake, when it comes to his ascension to demonhood, I also want you guys to understand that he really hated Horus Ascended and his demon Primarch brothers. Here is a quick cut from Perturabo's thoughts on the siege, as seen in The End in the Death Volume 3. Horus's idea of victory was not victory at all, whether Perturabo took the palace or not. It was not a victory that the Lord of Iron could afford. It was an unviable position, a victory he calculated to be impossible. He studied the data scrupulously, and it never lies to him. Having learned to hate Horus as much as he hated his father, Perturabo resolved he would not waste a single further soul on the effort. There was nothing to be gained. Perturabo double-checked the calculations and quit the field an hour later. There is no going back now, none at all. He sits in the broken chair, hunched forward, and watches the data. It talks to him in its unbiased voice. Horus is going to win. Horus's version of victory, at least, is not one supported by the data. So, the dress sword has finally drawn itself. Understand which way the wind is blowing, and bend with it before it breaks you. That's what common sense would say. Damn Horus to hell. That's what hate says. That's what the Lord of Iron screams at the walls as he dents it, and yells at the deck as he cracks it, and howls at the chair as he reduces it to debris. Don't go back. Don't ever go back. He hates you too. He will not forgive. He will not find mercy in his heart. His configuration of the future, now dawning, does not allow for mercy. Horus will punish you whether you go back or not. He will hunt you, and he will destroy you. The Lord of Iron sits on the deck, hunched over, and watches the data talk in calm blue twilight tones. It never lies to him. He watches it tell the story of the War Master's triumph, the victory of Horus, scrolling past one data block at a time. Damn him, hate him. He used the Lord of Iron as a weapon, but he made the Lord of Iron his enemy. Perturabo will just have to make ready and face him when he comes. Perturabo will simply have to kill Horus and all of his sons, and every single one of the idiots who cheer the name Lupercal, because they're too afraid not to. Every single one. Hate can do that. The Lord of Iron can do that, especially if he has become something more by then, something pure and perfect, because it is absolute and unique, hyper-compressed, meaning in solid form, the shadow cast by all weapons. There are ways to achieve that state. The data has shown it to him as an irrefutable outcome. He has just to decide if he can bear to, for all great accomplishments come at a great price. It will take persistence. He's never lacked that. The data says that the Emperor must die now. The victory is calculated and certain. It's twilight. Perturabo owes no allegiance, he has no bias, he hates equally. He leans forward to watch. Earlier, Perturabo ruminates on the purity of the Atame daggers as weapons, something he wishes to achieve for himself. Perturabo admits he has a genuine and full understanding of the warp, even the esoteric stuff of Malcador the Sigillite. Perturabo contemplates many things, and other than vengeance, he wants to become a raw weapon of such purity that it could rival the Atame blade that originally corrupted Horus. He wished he could have studied those daggers more deeply, but that was now beyond him. In the long years since, Perturabo has not been idle. The Lord of Iron and his sons have been active participants in the Long War, but more importantly, Perturabo has built his perfect world on Medrengard in the Eye of Terror. By being located in the Warp, Medrengard does not play by the rules of physical laws. Fortress spires run upwards for miles, and dungeons pierce to the very core of the world. It is a mad architect's vision of iron and stone. It is here where Perturabo has made his demonic home. Countless warbands of the Iron Warriors have used Medrengard as their base of operations for centuries, plotting as to how to crush and imprison their enemies, the Imperial Fist foremost amongst them. And now that Cadia is broken, and the Imperium is split in half by the Cicatrix Maledictum, the time has come for Perturabo and his embittered legions to wreak devastation upon the Imperium. Perturabo has forced alliances with Abaddon the Despoiler, Vashtor the Arcaphane, yet more importantly, Perturabo has declared a siege against the entirety of the Segmentum Obscurus. Yeah, Perturabo is going to besiege an entire fifth of the Imperium. As with everything, Perturabo prepared his grand siege to the extreme. He studied Imperial defenses within Obscurus in detail, having used remote scrying, torturing captured loyalists, and using a network of techno-cultist informants. Perturabo has learned much about the capabilities and limitations of Obscurus, and attacked with 1,000 armies. His grand strategy targeted the most heavily defended Imperial worlds, which led to a blockade of the Imperium itself. The Iron Warriors attack a dozen fortified worlds under the barrage of artillery and demon engines. The Imperium once thought these bastions untouchable, but Perturabo was determined to bring the entire Segmentum to disaster. His dealing with Vashtor, whom he still mistrusts, have led him to allowing Vashtor to be joined in his attack against the Rock by the Iron Warriors. While the Iron Warriors acted as another cog in Vashtor's plan, it was a near complete victory against the home ship of the Dark Angels. If you would like to know more about this insane fight, go watch my Vashtor video, which also goes deeper into his association with Perturabo. Although Perturabo has returned, he is still currently playing and planning things from the shadows. His ultimate goal is the destruction of the Imperium, and specifically the Imperial Fists. As long as Perturabo continues to play the puppet master and lead his legion, he will slowly destroy Segmentum Obscurus. This feat alone is something no one in the entire history of the Imperium has ever achieved. While Segmentum Pacificus is rather infamous for its non-stop rebellions, tearing apart an entire Segmentum, world by world, has never really happened before. And it makes me wonder, could the Imperium actually survive if an entire Segmentum is lost? For those less familiar with the galactic map of the Imperium, Obscurus is the Segmentum where the Eye of Terra is located. And although the Great Rift runs through a significant portion of Obscurus, the parts that remain in Imperium Sanctum are the very last line of defense between the Eye of Terror and Holy Terra. But if Perturabo steps from the shadows to take matters into his own hands, will he and Abaddon burn Terra together? Or will Perturabo first want to settle the score with Mortarion before moving on? In any case, Perturabo has had a way more significant impact on the galaxy than most people realize, and it seems like he's far from done with the Imperium. But what do you think of all of this? Now that you know that Perturabo is back and we have seen what he has been up to, what would you like to see next of him? I am personally hoping for an awesome new novel, or even a trilogy. Looking at you, Dark Imperium, on what the Lord of Iron has been up to exactly, and what the 4th Legion has been doing for the last 10,000 years. Are you excited for his return, or would you rather have kept him in the background until he's actually needed once again? Let me know your comments, concerns, suggestions, theories and ideas down in the comment section below. If you think I deserved it with this video, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It helps push this video into the algorithm and it would make me very happy. Thank you for watching and I will be seeing you guys in the next one. Bye bye.